Welcome to the series, Insights about Christian Wellbeing. Our question for this week is, what are the key questions of a worldview? Number 3. Our question for this week is, what are the key questions of a worldview? What are the issues we should be grappling with? And you can come up with your own questions that are the questions that you feel are most important to deal with. I'm going to share the ones that I think are the most important in my life. And as I look back on 70 plus years of life. First of all, one of the key questions I think we should be considering in our worldview is, what is the overriding purpose of humankind? You and I are part of humankind, and that humankind is very unusual on Earth and in the universe. What is the sense of our ultimate overriding purpose? The second question that I think is a key question for your worldview and for mine, where did we come from? Science is pretty clear that we could not have come from a puddle full of amino acids. We're way too complicated. And the probabilities of that occurring are so low that they actually challenge our sense of even the purpose and the nature of our universe. So where did we come from? We didn't come from an accident in a puddle. 3, who am I really? Who exactly am I? What are my characteristics, and how do those things, how have they been shaped, and how do they contribute to my personal well-being or my Christian well-being? The fourth question is, why am I here? I think we can deal with the overriding purpose of humankind, but also what is unique to me that is part of my purpose and part of my destiny to fulfill. The next question, the fifth question in my look at worldview is, what will happen to me when I die? I'm not that far away from death. And as I get closer to it, it becomes more important for me to understand, am I going to go to heaven? Am I going to be in a hell? Or am I going to be in oblivion? So that becomes part of a question that I need to resolve as I get closer to that seminal phenomena of death, which really is part of life. So, and the sixth question is, how do I know what is right and wrong? Where does my morality come from? What actually should be considered as I encounter various situations in life? The seventh question is, where does evil come from? It seems like there's a great deal of evil in our world, and it doesn't always seem to come from very clear sources. It does seem to continue to come up as part of human life, and that, I think, needs to be resolved in our own questioning about our worldview. Why is there suffering, and why is it part of life? Why do I suffer? Why have I suffered? What suffering have I caused other people to encounter and to experience? The ninth question is, what is truth? What is ultimately real? What is ultimately the truth of our human existence? And the 10th question is, how should humankind be governed? If we answer questions 1 through 9, we come up usually with parameters that would help guide us in terms of how our governance takes place. What kind of freedoms do we have the individual have? Where do those freedoms run up against the collective and social needs that we might experience? So in summary, your worldview can address any questions that you feel are important. Discovering the answers to each of these questions often takes a lifetime. And I will be sharing my answers to these questions based on my Christian faith and the Bible in the weeks ahead. Now, for more information on this topic, try these terms in your web browser. Key questions for a worldview, elements of a worldview, constructing your worldview. Now, I'd like to share a couple quotes with you just as something to encourage and to catalyze some of our own thinking about this. The first one is, the purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. And that's from Ralph Waldo Emerson. The second quote is, If there is no God, then man and the universe are doomed. Like prisoners condemned to death, we await our unavoidable execution. There is no God, and there is no more immorality. And what is the consequence of this? It means that life itself is absurd. It means that the life we have is without ultimate significance, value, or purpose. William Lane Craig. Next week, we will be addressing the question of what are some of the most common worldviews. And we want to encourage you to live well, live wise, live long.